Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I want to talk about a notion that Mr. Rogers kind of coined, and it's to always look for the helpers. And the reason why I'm talking about this, so to kind of take a step back and talk about it from a personal perspective, with everything going on in the world, it almost becomes easier for me to focus on all the negative stuff that's going on out there, and that can be very defeating, and it can make it has made me at times very depressed. But when I really focus on looking for the helpers and people with doing positive things, it motivates me, it gives me hope, so I make that conscious effort to really look, whether it be on social media or so forth, in the news, and really seek out the things that are going right, things that are happening. And there's a lot of it, and I'm truly inspired by this. And I think one of the things, when I think about that Mr. Rogers quote that I was grappling with a couple of weeks ago, was this idea of balance. How do you remain kind of just searching for the helpers and being optimistic and hopeful, and kind of not negate the fact that bad things are happening? How do you kind of grapple with both and understand both? And it's interesting. Like, I think a lot of times people who are termed optimistic by default almost get deemed therefore unrealistic. And that's not the case, right? Because someone can be optimistic and hopeful, yet still be a realist. And that was kind of the realization that I came to ultimately, was that this both can work, both function together. Like, I can still see all the horrors in the world, but be optimistic and see the people that are doing good and, amplify their voices, help them out, whatever the case may be. And in so doing, I'm not negating what is happening in the world, but I am taking best efforts to do something about it, and having some sense of control, because we all have control. Or ironically, most times we feel like we need to control the world, when in fact the only thing that we can and should focus on is ourselves. Because that's the only thing we can ultimately control. And that might sound like defeating and minuscule, but it's not. Once you take control of yourself, it's really powerful. And so, while I'm applying this mentality to the pandemic, it also works on a creative level. Because, whenever I make things, no matter what happens, even in writing a novel, it's actually still a collaborative art in some sense, because there's people, like Emily, who is my editor. She and I work together, and we collaborate on the novel. And so, one of the ways that I found her was in looking for helpers, in that way. So, whatever you're kind of working on, especially if you feel stuck or you're trying to learn something, look in this context, helpers, I mean in the greater sense of people who are positive, people who are solution-oriented, people who want to help, people who are answering questions, people who are engaged with other people, all this stuff, that to me is what sort of defines a helper. And so, one of the things in my life, whenever I feel stuck, like, I am amazed, I call it YouTube University. Like, YouTube University has so much just amazing resources, and they're all free, right? They're on YouTube. And so I look to those, just from a creative standpoint. And certainly now, the helpers that I've been looking are more from a social justice cause, but nonetheless, to me, this applies in all facets of life, even creativity. So take that to heart and utilize it, moving forward. Anyway, that's what I have for you. I hope it is beneficial. If you have questions, as always, comment down below or hit me up on social media. Also, if you have any thoughts of your own to add, please share. I love reading what you have to say, because I learn from you. And to that effect, if someone in your life you think would benefit from these words, by all means, please share with them. I certainly would appreciate it. And conversely, if you yourself like what I'm talking about, well, then I would encourage you to subscribe if you're not already. That way you get all the various lessons that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you next time.